and also from Europe, because it's Sunday mornings and people can join in. Our friends and family from Ireland and Portugal and Germany and Austria. So it's kind of how the world should be. It should be bridging and bridging all uh, um, all divides. And so today, Michael and I thought we wanted to talk about yearning, about longing, which is kind of not really a typical Buddhist topic. I think in Buddhist philosophy there is uh, often more speak about intention, or we talk about motivation a lot. And so we thought we go a little step earlier, which is longing. And it's really a term that's more used. I don't know if it's in the Judeo, but definitely in the Christian uh, back, background. And it's kind of a stirring. It's more for a heart movement rather than a mind movement. Intention is very often, oh, I have an intention, I want to get there, from here to there, which is a wonderful thing to have, and it really moves people. But yearning is a step beforehand. And over the years, I found that it's a very important thing. And when we think back when we were children, we often had these yearnings for something we weren't quite sure what it was, and I think it's really important to notice our yearnings, because they come from the heart, and often they are not that well defined. Often they are not clearly formulated, but they're very important. They are these hunches we have, these intuitions we have. Um, and they're just so important to follow. And I think especially in this world of ours, which is becoming, it's very uncertain. There's this fear of illness and death with COVID. There's social, political, very great uncertainty, which is so hard uh, to hold, to deal with, and not to get overwhelmed by. And so we are needing this. We are needing our spiritual practice, our psychological / spiritual practice to keep us afloat, to give a wider perspective. I find when I'm sitting in my backyard in the mornings at 6:30 or 7, and I sit there, listen to the birds, um, and quiet my mind and open the heart, and feel a sense of interdependence, how nothing is really separate, then I have the strength, the faith, the perspective to be really engaged in my life. And I think that's what we need right now. We need to be engaged, to be alive, and to be awake. And so we need these times of safety, of emotional, spiritual, mental, psychological safety, so that we can fully participate in making our world what we want it to be. And Michael will give the talk today. But before that, we thought we wanted to do a mindfulness of breathing meditation, just so that we can settle ourselves and we can be present here. We can, you know, get rid of the cobwebs of the night, of the sleep, and just be here right now. Make yourself comfortable, and as I heard recently a teacher saying, settle your mind into your body and your body into your cushion or seat. Let yourself settle into the sensations in your body. And feel your whole body. Maybe for a moment, let your body sway from side to side like a blade of grass in a breeze, finding its center. Let yourself experience a strong back symbolizing courage. And an open, vulnerable chest, signifying receptivity. Let yourself feel the totality of your body, your posture, every sensation in the wholeness of your body. And as you feel the wholeness of all sensations in your body, notice your eyes to soften, your jaw to relax. Your shoulders to let go. Breath brushing through the area of your heart. Your belly soft. And again, be aware of your whole body, the posture of your body. How it is situated within the space around you. Noticing the space within and around you. From this body, the wholeness of your body, notice breath arising with the in-breath, breath falling with the out-breath. Back into the wholeness of your body. And breath to brush in naturally. Feeling your whole your body as a whole. Breath arising with the inhale, falling with the exhale. Back into your home, your body, for the next breath to brush in naturally. Feeling every sensation in the wholeness of your posture, breath brushing in with the in-breath, noticing every instant of breath, every instant of out-breath. Falling back into body, breath breathing you. Allowing awareness and breath and body to flow together. For a moment, you might intensify your focus, just looking closer without being tense. Noticing every instant of the in-breath, every instant of the out-breath. The wholeness, posture of your body, and breath brushing in naturally. Surrendering to your body being breathed. For a moment, you might notice the sensation of breath brushing through the area of your heart. Notice where there's a sense of rawness or tightness, numbness or ache. And return to your whole body to be breathed. Allowing breath to breathe you. When there are thoughts or feelings, letting them pass by. And again, returning to your touchstone, body and breath. Intensifying your focus a bit, looking more closely. And easing up a bit. Finding that place, that sweet spot where body is being breathed. Notice space within and around you. Notice breath arising in this vast space. Falling back into it. Breath breathing you. Breath arising out of this vast space within and around you. and falling back into it. Thoughts rising and disappearing again. Feelings and opinions arising and disappearing again. Arising like tufts of air and falling back into the big space. All arising, all passing away, always changing. One transforming into another. Allowing your body to be breathed by the big breath of life.
Thank you, Radhule. So I'm going to share with you, see. Yes, I'm going to share with you now. Oops, sorry. I'll have to quickly go back here to the start. I'm going to share with you some thoughts, a story and some thoughts about the theme of this morning's session, which, as Radhule mentioned at the beginning, is about yearning, that sense of yearning. So the story I want to share with you began with something I experienced in Yellowstone National Park, maybe about 10 years ago now. And I was there and I was driving through the park in the late afternoon, early evening. And as I was going along a road between some pine trees, a car came around the corner, sort of flashing its lights. And so I sensed I needed to slow down, which I did. And then I went around the corner, and when I went around the corner, I saw what looked like a dog walking up the road in my direction. And I kind of recognized this wasn't just a big dog, this was a gray wolf. So I pulled into the curb, and that's where I am as I'm taking this picture of the wolf approaching me, as he just kind of came walking down the road. And he was just, he or she, I'm not sure, was just unconcerned about, there weren't many cars on the road. There was one little bit ahead, you can see there at the corner. But he just went right by me within a couple of feet. And then he just kept going, and I got into my car and I turned around my car, and I traveled along beside him for maybe about 10 minutes or so. And occasionally when a car approached, I would flash my lights and to warn the car to slow down, which it would. And the wolf just kept going where it was going. And I just was able to follow along with it, as I say, for some time. Until it kind of reached this little bridge, this little footbridge across a sort of a stream. And the wolf crossed this footbridge and disappeared into the snow and the pine trees on the other side. And that was the last I saw of the wolf. And I had a hard time sleeping that night. I felt so excited by this encounter, this what felt like an amazing meeting with this wolf. But what emerged, I did eventually get to sleep, and what emerged when I woke the next morning was what I was aware of in my chest and my heart was a kind of a sense of yearning. And it was hard to say what it was a yearning for, but I knew it was connected with this encounter with the wolf the evening before. And it was as though it was a yearning to somehow cross over that footbridge and be with the wolf where the wolf was. So it kind of seemed related to the wolf, and yet it seemed somehow part of something maybe bigger. And it was a kind of a sense of yearning that I'd experienced at other times in my life, and a sense of yearning that I've experienced on and off since then, not related necessarily to the wolf, but to I'm not sure quite what. So I wanted to share that story, and I wanted to ask the question, what was this? What is this kind of sense of yearning we sometimes feel, that I felt here, to cross over to the other side of the road, to be where the wolf was? And I want to share with you a story and a way of seeing that helps me to understand, or make sense a little bit, I should say, of this sense of yearning. The story is one that many of you, I know, will be familiar with, but it's the story of Gautama Siddhartha, the young Indian prince who was to become the Buddha, and how he, at the age of 26, left his father's palace and wandered out into the world. And he was wandering out into the world with two questions, because of what he had seen. He'd seen old age, illness, death, poverty, and he, coming from this very protected life, he was asking the question, what is suffering? And what is freedom from suffering? How can we find freedom from suffering? And so in a way, that was his yearning. His yearning was that kind of question, to understand the nature of suffering and how we find freedom from suffering. And so many of you will know the story that he went and he wandered for 6 years, and for 6 years he lived the life of an ascetic. among other ascetics in the forest, fasting and meditating. And then he didn't find the answers to his questions in the harsh ascetic life. And he left the forest, and he wandered on until he came to a tree, the Bodhi tree. And he sat under the Bodhi tree. And he sat with the intention and the motivation, I'm going to sit here until I understand the nature of suffering, and I understand how we find freedom from suffering. And then in the middle of the night, it dawned on him, or the insight came through. And Joanna Macy puts it this way: it was then, in the crucible of his unwavering attention, that the realization of dependent co-arising swept over him. So the insight he had that seemed to be an answer to his questions was an understanding of dependent co-arising, an understanding of how everything is interconnected and everything is mutually conditioning everything else. So things co-arise. They don't just arise independently, they co-arise. They come into being and then they fade away. And so we live in this radical interdependent field. And if we see ourselves as part of this radical independent field, it can bring us freedom from suffering. Joanna Macy, talking a little more about dependent co-arising, says, what became clear to Gautama was the process nature of reality. He beheld the flowing interaction of all things as they arise, as they provide occasion and context for each other's emergence and subsiding. All aspects of our world and all factors of our lives subsist, he saw, in a dynamic web of interdependence. But these currents of relationship are not visible. To the physical eye, we look like separate projects walking around in separate bodies. The Buddha called this interconnectedness, this sense of interconnectedness, this understanding of interconnectedness, paticca samuppada, which means dependent co-arising. So that was the Buddha's that was the Buddha's awakening. That's what he awoke to understanding that this was the nature of reality. And the forest was filled with light, and the bhikkhus, his monks and his followers, came to him, and he spent the rest of his life. He was just 30 years old, and he spent the rest of his 80-year-old life, the next 50 years, trying to explain this in his teachings, because this was the path to liberation from suffering. And so there are many kind of implications to a dependent co-arising. And one of these is really for how we understand the nature of the self, or, what is the self? And here in the West, and I think most everybody on this call is from the West, we tend to see the self a little bit like a billiard ball, as permanent, something that's kind of got a permanence, a solidity, and that's separate to other selves or other billiard balls. And so other individuals exist with their own colors and shapes and sizes, but we're all separate entities. And of course we interact, but when we interact in these kind of linear causality rather than the mutual causality that his insight spoke to. So that's our understanding of the self in the West. Whereas a Buddhist and an indigenous perspective, it's not just a Buddhist perspective, but it's also very much an indigenous perspective, sees the self more like a wave, not so much a particle, but more like a wave. That rather than being permanent, solid, and separate, it's impermanent, as in it's ever changing, it's fluid, and it's connected. And waves interact with waves, not like two billiard balls hitting against each other in a linear fashion, but they overlap and they co-arise and they form something new. And so that's the mutual co-arising, mutual causality. And so the insight of the nature of the self that comes from the East is that the Pali word for it is anatta, or no self. And sometimes when we hear that, and it's a misconception about Buddhism, people think, oh, Buddhism is very nihilistic. But it's not. It's not about nihilism. It's not that there's no self, it's that there's no permanent, solid, separate self. There is self, but it's self as process, self as relationship, self as connection and interconnection. And so that's the story that helped me in my understanding of this yearning. And then the kind of the mindset, the way of seeing is one that I've learned from teachers in Native American tradition. And this phrase, this Lakota phrase, mitakuyasan means all our relations. And this is a phrase that is said at the beginning of ceremony, at the beginning of a sweat lodge ceremony. When one is entering the sweat lodge, one touches one forehead to the earth before going into the lodge and says mitakuyasan, are all our relations, because one is doing what one is doing for all one's relations. But this is a whole worldview that is a shared worldview, and it's expressed beautifully here by Jeanette Armstrong, who is a First Nations author, artist, activist, Canadian. And here she says, talking about this worldview, we are the land. The land is part of us in a way that many of us don't understand. We think of the land as being an extension of ourselves, and we think of the way that the land is inside of us. So when I walk out on the land, when I visit the land, one of the things that happens is that my body recognizes being part of the land. And when you feel that, when you're out there and your body feels it, your blood feels it, your mind feels it, and every part of your being feels the sun and the wind and the air and all the living things around you, the experience we have is always reflected in the idea that the land itself loves us, cares for us. When you think about it in that particular way, when you go out to our land and we feel that security, we feel that love of the land coming towards us, it's a different kind of feeling than the opposite when you're saying, I love the land or I care about the land. Throughout the years of growing up, my father, my grandfather, my mother, my uncles, my aunties, all said the same thing. And basically what they've embedded in our teachings is, we are the land. We are the land. We are embodied interconnection with the living earth. So to come back to the question, what is this yearning? Could it be, at least in part, could it be a longing to remember, and to remember as in reconnecting and remembering our true nature, who we really are, our deeper identity as interbeings. So I'd like to lead you in a short meditation now. So I invite you to close your eyes and to allow your awareness to drop down into your body, all the way down to the ground, all the way down to the sensations of contact between your feet and the ground, your seat and the ground. and allow yourself to drop into those sensations of firmness and solidity. And for just a few moments, allow yourself to be held in that sense of firmness and solidity. When you're ready, allow your awareness to rise up and fill the whole space of your body, from the soles of your feet to the crown of your head, mindfully aware. And as you're mindfully aware within your body, notice where you most feel the sensations of the breath. The rise and fall of your belly, the rise and fall of your chest, subtle flow of air moving in and out of your nostrils. Wherever you most feel the sensations of breath, allow your awareness to alight on the sensations of breath like a feather on a wave. Sensations of the rising breath, sensations of the falling breath. Allow yourself to be carried by the sensations of the rising breath, falling breath. As your body continues to breathe, I invite you in your mind's eye, in your imagination, in your memory, to picture somewhere in nature, somewhere in the natural world, you love to go, somewhere you love to be, somewhere when you're there, you feel at home. You can be yourself, undefended. You trust this place. You know you're safe. And picture yourself arriving in this place. And in your mind's eye, stand there and look around and take in this place. And open the doors of your sight wide. Notice the light, the colors, the details, any movement. Who's there? What's there? And just allow yourself for just a few moments to see what you're seeing, receiving what's coming towards you. Notice how your mind will come in with comments, labels, stories, thoughts. As soon as you notice this, let go of the distraction, relax, and allow your awareness to drop back down into your body and into the raw sensation of seeing what you're seeing. When you're ready, imagine closing your eyes and listening into the landscape around you, opening the doors of your hearing wide, receiving all the sounds that are coming towards you as you listen for the quietest sound. Again, it's not about labeling or commenting. If you notice yourself doing this, relax, let go, and bring your attention, allow your attention to fall back into your body and into the raw sensations of hearing what you're hearing. When you've a sense of this, I invite you to imagine opening your eyes, looking around in this place you know so well, and finding a spot where you can safely and comfortably allow yourself down onto the ground so that you can lie stretched out on the earth. And I invite you, if you would like to imagine yourself doing that, allowing yourself down onto the ground, stretching out on your back with your hands, your palms of your hands face down in contact with the ground. And closing your eyes, and as you close your eyes, allowing your awareness to drop down into the sensations of contact between the full length of your body and the earth. And for just a few moments, allow your awareness to rest in those sensations of firmness and solidity. Allow your awareness to rest in the sense of being held. When you're ready, I invite you to allow your awareness to rise up into the space of your body and to notice within the space of your body the sensations of breath, sensations of the rising breath, sensations of the falling breath. And I invite you to follow for just a few moments the sensations of the rising breath, the sensations of the falling breath, and in between, the sense of being held. Sensations of the rising breath, sensations of the falling breath, and in between, the sense of being held. When you're ready, I invite you to bring your attention, your particular attention, to the sensations of the falling breath, the sensations of the exhale. And I invite you to let go with the exhale, to release and let go all that you're holding on to, even things you didn't realize you were holding on to. Just to loosen your grip and to release and let go to the sensations of the exhale. Letting go, letting go, letting go all the way through the exhale. And even beyond the end of the exhale, continuing to let go, to let go, to let go. Until the next breath flows in effortlessly as the body breathes all by itself. Letting go with the exhale, letting go, all the way through the exhale, and even beyond the end of the exhale, letting go, letting go, letting go, until the next breath flows in effortlessly as the earth breathes all by herself. For just a few moments, allow yourself to be held in the effortless flow of the earth's breathing. And may all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings everywhere be free. And may I become all that I need to become to best enable this to happen for all our relations. Thank you all.
And maybe there are questions.